Alright, sweet. So, for this review, we're going to talk about the mid fights, then pushes in conjunction with one another, and then the holds. Because pushes
Okay.
and mid fights, they have a bit of overlap, but yeah, the normal rollout should always be taken from main. You don't really want to walk out towards grass side, and sometimes you'll walk cliff with your soldier. We'll talk about that in a bit, but first, let's talk about this concrete fight. Because you know the drill. With concrete, you just go straight through, and you either push straight through connector, meeting their flank, or you push towards crates, either immediately or after a little bit. The thing that I figured out, and this is going to change from person to person, so this is just my opinion on the situation. I used to play it like this, where I was playing slow, methodical, but here's the problem. It's way too passive. Me revving in this spot doesn't get anything done. If people walk in, that's just them, like, being reacted to. I'm reacting to them walking through here, but they don't have to. In fact, a lot of heavies during this time will actually try the same idea with concrete, but they'll do it in main instead. And they'll rev over here, which is a weird thing for me to say. And it's not something that I would think to do, but going forward, this is the idea that I want you guys to do. I need to also put in the Archon, so just give me a quick second. I'll just show you with the buffs and stuff too, so. And if you want to try this out for yourself, it's AdCon 32. But yeah, I'm Soldier Whip speed now. So every single mid fight should look something like this. For you to play concrete, it's not so much that you're playing deep into connector, which you can absolutely do, but it's more so a read, alright? This is mostly just prepping for a fight between their heavy and soldier and your heavy and soldier. Your soldier should not be bombing behind when you do this. The only thing that you need to do is just walk in, deal with them as best as possible, and watch out for spies in these corners because they can absolutely sit here. It is a very wide space, and most heavies walk in a single straightforward line. But, like I said before, the theory should not be revving over here because this is way too passive. The theory should be using the speed that you're getting from your soldier to jump rev over here and either peek towards concrete if you need to, or just be in a position to fight crates if the sniper's not playing on cliff. Or, if the situation calls for it, like if their demo's behind rock and he's low, you can immediately turn around, shoot him, fight him, do whatever you need to. And I'm gonna turn down the game audio because that might be bad for some people. But overall, the entire idea for this mid-fight should just be space control. The reason why we want you over here is because during this transition, if you rev over here, you're sniper fodder. If you rev over here, sniper has less chances to deal with you. And that's when you can start either walking through connector, going into their concrete, or you play crates with your team, and both of those positions are win conditions. This also applies for a push as well, but we'll get to that soon, not now. So the entire mid-fight for concrete revolves around the fact that you're fast, you're active, and you're not playing passive. If your soldier's in, you might have to walk main. Like, if he's called that he's bombing in behind or anything like that, I'd rather you walk main and kind of get the exact same thing by doing this. Mostly because Sniper's not going to really be paying attention to people on grass. Or not grass, they're going to be paying attention to... Sorry. They're not going to be paying attention to people walking through main. So you doing it like this might be an idea. Of course, he might be looking towards grass or concrete anyway, so you might eat the shot. But that's where this mid can come in as well. Where you could just sit over here, do whatever you need to, and this is the most immediate mid. But yeah. Besides that, playing by rock is also a really good mid as well, where you're just aiming to walk towards crates. You don't want to sit by rock. If anything, use it as a transition spot to either play by dog bread or by crates. Because remember, on this map, for heavy at least, crates, their side concrete, and dog bread are all win conditions if you can play there and your team supports you. It also is, you know, possible for you to play on point and get a lot of the stuff done, but that mostly really applies to, like, your team needing to get this cap off, and you need to help them out with that. This can especially be done with Fist of Steel, but like I said, we'll get to that soon. I just want to focus on this. like I said before, playing passive was a really big part of the game plan that I had beforehand. And because of that, I'm turning off SV cheats. Jesus. Alright, anyway. Yeah, so my theory with concrete is that people are going to walk in this direction, they have to, right? And that's what people will usually do in lower divs. Their main prerogative is very simple. It's just get in and not really think about playing on point because you're mostly fighting towards people in connector. That's how I was thinking. Other people might play over here, for example, during the mid-fight, which I do not suggest unless you're getting absolutely pelted by snipers over here, and they're not in concrete so you have enough time to eat. But I just don't like this way of play either, because they could just walk through connector, mulch you down, and then focus people on rock, or outright ignore you and then deal with the people on rock. But, yeah, I don't know. I think, for what it's worth, the mid-fight should be played in a very aggressive fashion. So I'm not going to talk about playing it passive. I'm not going to talk about what angles to peek, because if I were to play concrete and I were to play it slow, not during a mid-fight, yeah, this angle would be fine for me to try and peek. If I play the head glitch, if I try to do anything like that, sure, it's fine. But my main prerogative during a mid-fight, get in and stay in and help my team along the way. Because remember, you playing up here moves that line forward, and everybody should be playing along this line. I like to call it the invisible wall, but you get the idea. You want to just be on the same plane as your team. You want to be at the same line as your team. So if your team is playing up, you got to be playing up. If your team is playing back, and you have the position to do it, it might be better for you to try and get in a position. I saw what you did.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, that's how the mid-fight should be played from now on. I won't suggest playing it different. This is just how I think people should be playing it from now on. Because jump revving over here to get the position and then peeking once you're fully revved is the best way to do it. You don't want to, like, jump rev and then peek at the same exact time that you're in that position. Unless people are right in your face. It's more so just, hey, people are going to be playing in concrete. I know how passive they play. I know how aggressive they play. If they do end up playing aggressive, sure, you might be able to jump rev straight into them and get a lot of damage done. Of course, they also might rev behind, in which case this becomes a better idea, but you don't want to play around what other people are doing. You want to play around what your team can do on the point, and then focus on what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time, it should just be you focusing on what you can do to help your team, but you also gotta focus on everybody else, right? You gotta focus on yourself. So, just play in this spot. This is a pretty nice spot to be. Transition over to crates, walk through their side connector, and try to get on their concrete. And of course, if you are playing main, this is only done if your soldier is not with you. If your soldier is bombing behind, you walk through main, getting into this spot, getting onto crates, or using the transition to play dog bread. Now, with all of this being said, let's talk about the cliff mid. Cliff mid should be done in an exponentially faster pace, because you and your soldier are playing together. You guys are going to be rolling out towards the left side of spawn. You're going to get whips all the way around, and this is important, so I want you to pay attention to this. You don't rev over here. You rev as close to the cliff face as possible. That way you immediately drop down and help your team win this fight by being active in that fight. The main point of all of this is to just move the line forward, and your team needs your help, right? And you need your team's help. So, you know, through all of this, what I want you to do is just pay attention to the health you have, pay attention to everything that you have to your disposal, just pay attention to your health, crit heals, ubers, buffs, players with you. Especially during a mid-fight, you want to take advantage of everything you have, so get a 450 buff, and no matter where you push, tell your team that you're in, or they're baiting. That's what I'm going to be doing. And playing dog bread is pretty simple as well. Shoot the people behind over here. If they start shooting you from crates, you have to shoot them as well, or it might be a better idea for you to stick towards their rock, maybe. If you know that they're heavies over here, it might be a good idea for you to try getting as close to their rock as possible, maybe even playing this side of point. In fact, one of the oldest strategies used for this map that I just discovered was heavies playing as close to this as possible, and then backing up over here. This used to be the forward hold, believe it or not. Like, Heavy's playing in this position, jumping over here. It's so fucking weird. It's different, but we won't talk about that. For right now, what I want you to focus on is during the mid-fight, if you are playing dog bread, make sure that you're paying attention to where people are at, but also just remember, don't walk up immediately. Just be in a position where you can damage people behind rock, your soldier's in, helping you out, your demo then jumps in, helps you out, and during this entire time, you're unloading damage to the combo. People are going to be walking behind, soldiers might bomb, spies might decloak, snipers will shoot, so please be aware of all of that. You're not planning to live during the mid-fight. I want to just get that out of the way. You're planning to get as much value with your life as possible. That's why I'm so stingent on crit heals being a major factor in a win. Because if you're 450 HP, that's more HP for you to work with so you can get what you need to get done. Plus, it also helps you in the case where people clean up on your damage, and yeah, it's just really, really nice to just do. Yeah, I'm gonna need you guys to, like, not do this during the middle of all of this. Like, Swedes, just turn back to your normal self and not, like, please. Like, this, I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to, like, do the mid-fight, but I'm half distracted by you guys just doing shit. So, yeah. Sorry, that's what I've seen. Anyway. What I don't want to really see during the mid-fight is you playing passive on rock, because they're going to be unloading damage behind your rock anyway. Heavies are going to walk over by crates, people are going to walk through connectors, snipers going to be in porch, rock, china, cliff, wherever they need to be. What you need to be is aggressive, and you need to be aggressive in one angle, and your team needs to play in another angle. Of course, your team might walk at the same angle as you, and that gets really annoying with snipers as well. Like, if he's porch, your demo rotates right side, but uh-oh, you're playing on crates, and now it's just like, So, there's not much that can be done. At the moment, the only thing that can be done is just preventing that from happening altogether. If you're pushing an angle, just let it be known, hey, I'm pushing crates. That way your demo, if he is, in that right mindset, he'll try not to go in the same angle as you, or he'll play far enough away so you're not eating the same damage. And also, just one thing. When you're in these forward positions, when you are playing forward like this, it is really important that you keep measure on cap time. I want to try doing this as well, because this is something my mentor told me. Just keeping time on the point and staying on the point for as long as possible is going to win you that game. Is going to win you the game, right? It's an objective-based game, so you want to just stand on it as much as possible whenever you can, realistically. If you are going to die if you stand here, maybe use Fist of Steel if you want to secure something. But at the end of the day, if you want to cap this point, here's two things that you got to look out for. Where they're at, what they're going to try and do to kill you guys, or what's the game state, for example. If you know that they're all dead, sit your happy ass on the point. If they're going to go for a sack, you might be able to sit on point, but you need to look up a little bit, right? You might need to look behind for spy, but the main goal is just protecting your team. The other situation is if they're all behind rock, but they're way too passive, low in health to do anything about it, they don't have ammo, that's when you Fist of Steel and try to maybe play behind rock if you need to. Maybe that's when you cap and then go by concrete so you can eat, get health and ammo, and then refight as soon as possible. But I don't want this to be done by yourself. I want this to be done in conjunction with the rest of your team. I don't want to do it. I don't want you guys doing anything that's just, by yourself. I don't want you to go for ego frags. I don't want you to go for anything by yourself unless you're forced to do so. If you can, play with people on your team to help you win the mid-fight, to get cap time on point, to just do whatever you need to do. And this is where I suggest you guys talk to your soldier, talk to your demo, talk to your spy. But also, depending on the player, you might be able to talk with your sniper a little bit. It's weird. And this is where we'll get into pushes. I'll talk about Cliff first because this is the simplest one to understand. When you're playing on Cliff, the main idea is that you do not want to be seen while also protecting your sniper. There's two theories to this, and I'll tell you the theory that I had beforehand. The theory I had before is that you sit on your sniper. You protect him from every single bomber, you protect him from every single spy, and only then, once those threats are not known, or not, sorry, once those threats are gone, or are known in different positions that you need to worry about, that's when you can start playing up and being aggressive, hiding in corners, just doing whatever you can for Cliff. And also another thing too, if you are playing Cliff, utilize the corner a bit, because sometimes the Uber will go through, and if people don't see you, you can hide over here, the Uber goes through, they walk out, and that's when you jump on them. Of course, be careful, you don't want to be seen, and this is where the next theory comes in. The next theory is maybe not protecting your sniper like this, but just not being seen in general. So maybe playing to protect him like this, for example, maybe playing a little bit back so you can help him, but the main idea for this is just you want to prevent yourself from being seen, but you also want to protect your sniper. So you're doing everything in your power to make that happen. You're not really shooting, you're just looking around, kind of spraying in your own mind, because you don't want people to see this. They know you're on Cliff now. Bullet tracers are really, really, really helpful, especially with you on Cliff, or on other people on the point while you're shooting on Cliff. If you can pay attention to where these bullet tracers are, it's going to be very helpful for you guys to just try and fight this in a certain way, because the one thing that I hate about Cliff, that I've realized beforehand, or not beforehand, that I've realized now, it is way too passive. You would mostly be doing this to walk in, get stuff done, but if you're holding, that's when this starts becoming a bit of a risk. So I only really suggest doing this maybe for a different idea for a push maybe, but the entire idea is just revolved around you protecting your sniper and you not being seen. The other thing that you can do is just rotating with your sniper wherever he goes. If he's playing on Cliff, maybe you can play over here, for example. If he's playing all the way by China, that's when you might be able to play over here, just sort of protecting him from all angles, maybe playing on secret. This is especially good if you're just waiting for a push to happen and you don't have anywhere to stand. Of course, there's also the angle behind house right here, where you deny people from bombing in, but usually that doesn't happen all too much from what I've seen. It's just a really nice place for you to get a buff, and that's what it should be. But if you're not playing around your medic, if other people are, and your sniper's alone, it might be better for you to start getting up onto secret, helping them out along the way, and preventing people from staying in house, or spies from getting in on your sniper, or soldiers from getting in on your sniper.
Very well.
And the main idea with the push, because I completely forgot about that. The push should be something like this. Also, hold on, give me one quick second. Alright, I'm good. The push should look something like this. Unlike the mid-fight where you're revving as close as possible, you're trying to avoid being seen. So maybe you might hide in the corner, but people will eventually start to see you. And if that's so, that's when you sort of have to play aggressive. But if you see an opportunity for you to get an advantage on something, like let's just say maybe the heavy's playing on crates, or maybe somebody's on point and they're really low, that's when you should start making your presence known. And here's the other thing too. When you're pushing with your team, remember, you're trying to match the line of where other people are at. So you don't want to play passive here the entire time and sit here while this guy is getting shot, or your team is being shot. You need to drop down as soon as possible. This is why the push works, because your presence, your active presence, helps your team win this fight. Whereas if you're playing passive, you're basically doing the exact opposite. You're waiting for your team to win you that fight. You're not playing active enough to help your team in any regard when it comes to playing aggressive. You might be protecting them themselves, but again, it's just more so letting them win the game for you as opposed to letting yourself win the game for them, or you guys helping each other out, which is the main goal. And for offense, I don't know. I don't really see Cliff being played in offense all too much anymore. And I don't really suggest it. I mostly suggest it as a hold. Like, let's just say 4 players are down, or maybe you have a soldier by concrete, and here's the thing, right? Just with this Cliff hold, with this Cliff push, it's disconnected from the way that people like to play the game. It's disconnected from the way people are now starting to play the game as well. When it comes to concrete, when it comes to pushing through main, when it comes to playing crates through connector onto their concrete. But it doesn't make it unviable for those reasons as well. The only thing that's really different is that Cliff is more well known than concrete is. Concrete can be improved incrementally, and it's because it's newer, people aren't going to know more about it. People have been playing Cliff here for more than a decade. So, people are going to know how to counter it. The easiest way to counter it is to flood a different angle. Like, for example, oh, I don't know, a heavy and soldier walking through their side concrete, dealing with your combo while they're playing behind rock. And yeah, it just kind of gets to a point where playing Cliff is really, really good on paper, but it's really passive. It's a very, very passive way to play the game. That's not to say that it's bad, though. If nobody walks through connector, this spot is really good. But with that risk in mind, the only time that you should be playing Cliff is if you want to guarantee something, right? You want to guarantee point time by just being in a position where you can help your combo. Maybe you can help your team by watching out for bombers, so it might be good for bomb denial. But you can't really stay up here for a long period of time. It's just a really nice place for you to stay if you're trying to protect people. But that's how it should be seen. Protecting people as opposed to playing the game and playing the objective. Does that make sense?
Very well.
Alright, sweet. Because, yeah, that's where most of the value from Cliff comes from. You're supportive. You're not playing an active role. You're playing a very passive role. People walk into you, you don't walk into them. And the only times you walk into them is when they're aggressive enough for you to force a mistake. Or to capitalize on a mistake. So, like I said, when you're playing on Cliff, you want to play by the corner, you don't want to be seen. You also don't want to shoot. That means paying attention to where bullet tracers are on the floor as well. If I see a bullet tracer like this, I know the heavy's on dog bread. That might be my cue for me to go in. Like, for example, if he's still shooting behind my rock, that's a refight from me, immediately, and I kill that heavy. It's really good at punishing forward aggression on the other team. But remember, it's also a very passive way of playing because you are going into them, knowing where they are, and sort of having that strategy, but you're not doing it in a proactive way. You're doing it in a reactive way. Not to say that it's bad or anything, it's actually really good if you just spawn and you're going from a different angle, they start pushing into your team, you're right there on Cliff and you immediately refight. Which is what I think shines the most about this, because if you die during a push, which I don't like happening at all, and you respawn and the fight is still happening, Cliff becomes a really viable option for you to get stuff done. But, want to know what's more valuable than you possibly getting a kill on dog bread? Being alive, being 450, staying alive for the entire fight, but also just playing in dog bread, crates, or their side concrete. This only fulfills one of those three, and even still, it's the most exposed, it's the most team-oriented. Heavies playing over here benefit from having a team that can support them. And if you play aggressive, and you don't play... If you play aggressive, this spot can really, really, really help you out. Cliff kind of acts like a transition the entire time between you playing aggressive and you playing passive. Because there are moments when you can play aggressive, but there's also a lot more moments where you can play passive. And most of it is based on reaction. It's a reactive way of playing. It's a reactive way of playing against, to be honest, much less better... sorry. It's a way of reacting to play against much worse teams, because they don't know how to deal with Cliff Heavy. The idea with Cliff Heavy is that, again, he's over here protecting his team, but you want to know what also helps out on your team if you're dealing with a Cliff Heavy? He does no damage to you. Walk straight through connector and start dealing with people behind rock. That's the only thing that you need to do that completely breaks Cliff. But if the heavy's dead, the soldier's dead, if people are behind, maybe it might work, but I'm seeing much less use for Cliff nowadays. Which is unfortunate because I love playing it, but it is just a passive spot. So, do you guys have any questions about that? Just the push and hold in general, because I didn't realize that me talking about this would kind of lead into pushing and holding at the exact same time. Because that's kind of the idea with Cliff. You gotta just play around there. And I kind of talked about playing behind house as well, so let me just re-elaborate everything. When you're getting spawns, when you're getting people up and running, you get a buff, and you don't peek a sniper sight line until you're fully buffed. You don't take chip shots until you're fully buffed. This applies to every single area that we're going to be talking about for pushes, but especially during the transition, get a 450 before you cross those angles, before you get into house, because sometimes people will play by dog bread, and they'll see you. Sometimes people will jump on you, right here for example, and you kind of have to just react to it by having more health and better damage up close. If you play over here, it's really good at protecting your sniper. I'm not saying that is bad, but you gotta remember that you also peek a sniper sight line to help your sniper. They might see you during that entire time, so just be careful. This should always be in the transition between getting a push setup and actually pushing, if that makes sense. Like, you always want to be doing something, and that's just one of the ways that you can really do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to cliff and, by proxy, house. I do want to talk about one thing. If you do end up respawning, or you do end up playing a post fight, maybe it's like bad, you're low on health, you eat in a certain way, but you're not in main, you're not in concrete. Another good idea is for you to just shadow your combo and kind of play into valley, then peeking dog bread or going behind rock. The idea with this is that you're just kind of protecting your teammates, but in a more proactive way. You're actually walking in instead of already being in that position. The only downside, people will see you walking valley. There's more incentive to look at people that way anyway. But the other thing, if you rev over here, you're slow, and you're more or less just playing reactive to how they're playing. Right? So this would be a much better push. For example, if your team has Uberad, and you guys are walking in, this would be a great way for you to push, just walking straight from valley, from house. Because you're protecting your combo, and you also allow yourself to get on point and get some cap time. And from there, you can either transition to playing on cliff, or you can transition to playing rock. Maybe you even might transition to playing by crates, by dog bread. There's a couple of different ways that you can play it, but the entire idea with this is just you're shadowing your combo when they have an ad Uber. Now, let's get into the real meat and potatoes of pushes. Let's talk about main first, because this one is a very simple way of doing it. If you don't feel comfy pushing concrete, like let's just say a sniper's called cliff, if people are playing by cons and they're not walking in, maybe they're playing passive, maybe they're getting stuff up, or you just don't see anybody, you might be incentivized to walk through cons anyway. But another idea is for you to get a 450, get heals, whatever you need to do, and then you push from main. And when you push main, remember, it's like a mid-fight. You want to just be in a position where you can do a lot, but you don't want to be caught in the transition. Sometimes that's what you're going to have to do to deal with players on concrete, for example, because you have the head glitch right here. But again, the only counter to that is everything else. If you're paying attention to this, it's really good at denying space from connector, but everybody else can shoot you, so this becomes a very situational play, if that makes sense. Like, if you know the sniper's dead, by all means play this spot, and then slowly transition your way over to crates, or maybe play in concrete, just getting yourself into that position. But that's also coming at the risk of you being fully revved in a sightline like this. If you want to try and get something done, maybe it might be better for you to rev over here and start peeking dog bread with your team. Maybe it might be a better idea for you to go rev, or to not rev up until you're by concrete. Maybe it might just be a better idea for you to go concrete in general, but for main, most of it comes off of a post fight. Most of it comes off of a dry fight where you're not in the dry fight yet. But as an angle for you to push from with your team, it's kind of terrible. It's terrible in a way where you have to kind of be in your teammates' hitboxes in order for you to walk in the same time, help your team out at the same time. And you could just be better playing a different angle when your team is walking from main. Even if they walk valley, this isn't going to really work all too well because, again, there might be a sniper on rock, people are shooting you. You are much better playing at an extreme angle from concrete over to cliff. It's just kind of bad for you to walk through main unless there's something that's happening. Unless there's a post fight that's happening after an Uber exchange. Unless there's a dry fight that's happening once you guys get an advantage, like a sniper dies. But the main idea, for main at least, should just be a different way of pushing. Not the best one, but a different way of pushing. If your teammates are already in, or if your teammates are just walking in, it might be a better idea for you to go another place, but maybe it also might be good for you to play main. I don't know. It really does depend on the situation. Now, let's talk about concrete. And concrete, you already know what I'm about to say. If you want to play the head glitch, by all means play the head glitch, but I want you guys to realize this as well. I'll say it again. Well, I'm sorry, I never said it beforehand, but 20% of the map is from concrete. And most of the time you're playing over here by concrete. You will not have the visibility to get a lot done. But that doesn't mean that you don't have any visibility at all. You have the head glitch. You can peek over here if you want to. But the main idea with concrete should not be to get information exclusively. It should be a way for you guys to get in and play objective, right? If you're walking straight through concrete, the main idea is pretty simple. You either fight the people through connector, try to play a slow fight, and this is where playing this wall becomes good because they already have the point. That is already decided. In fact, I don't want you to do this for a mid fight because if you play like this, it's kind of deciding in your mind like, hey, they already have the point, or they're in a better position and I need to hide from them. That's only really applicable in this case where you're still pushing into them. So, you do this, you do what you need to do. Maybe you even might be able to play over by this corner, but this corner's kind of been a bit worse recently because people know how to play it more. People know how to shoot through connector to really get you. People know how to play around the fact that you're by connector, so if you're eating, they could just walk into you. The main thing with concrete is that somebody needs to be here protecting it. Somebody needs to be here. In fact, this is what I want to show you because this is really important. All of this area that we're standing on right now, use it as a vehicle for you to get into the spots that you want to be, but never really play over here in general. This is a really bad way for you. This is a bad place for you to stand. Really bad. They have a straight beeline on you from the point. They can shoot at you from concrete. If you sit over here, it's asking for you to get hit by damage. So, and this is what I want to show you guys because this is the most recent change that I figured out. If you want to play concrete, if you want to hold it and you want to get ready for a push, you can play this corner. This is what some people like to do, like Triple, for example. He'll play over here, kind of peek the head glitch back up when he needs to. Get a 450 buff. He'll cross the sight line. Maybe he'll go over here, get a buff. And then he'll walk concrete. But maybe that doesn't work for you. You know, maybe that's like, hey, it's way too aggressive. And there are ways to counter it as well. If people know you're in that corner, they could just full send into you if you're not prepared. Like, let's just say you're eating, right? If 3 people start if a heavy rev just starts peeking you and you're not expecting it, you're probably dead. So, maybe you have to avoid this angle. Maybe it might be better for you to play over here by this side of concrete. Maybe it might be better for you to play a bit wider. Even if people do see you, you're still in a position where you could protect them, right? And playing wide is really good against crates because there's not many good places for you to play on crates. So maybe I might have a better angle there, but playing wide is definitely better than me playing close because now you have a bit of an advantage if you're playing like that. But if I'm playing wide, it evens the playing field so I can do a bit more damage to you even if you don't see me first. That's an idea, but the other idea that I want you guys to get down is just use this door if you want to push, right? Might be better for you to hide over here during a push, like during an Uber exchange, for example. But you're still protecting somewhat of concrete. You're more so protecting your grass. You're playing for a buff. You might be compelled to walk main, which is alright. But it should just be known. Walking concrete might be better for your team because at the end of the day, somebody needs to watch it and you are really good at watching it. What that also means is that sometimes you will play against players who are really stupid aggressive. And if they are, that's really good for you because at that point you are just reacting to them. You might be able to play these spots to kill them, but if they're playing deep into you with no rhyme or reason, it's free eats. You just kill them and your team has a much better shot at pushing against you. But if they start playing aggressive towards you, that's when it can really start to suck. That's when playing these more passive spots become a bit more applicable because they're not walking at you from main, not yet anyway. They're walking at you from concrete and peeking into you. So maybe playing that spot might be better during a push, for example. But yeah, it's just a lot all at once. So here's the rundown. If they are playing aggressive, you play these more passive spots, you play behind house. That's when you start watching out for people in their aggression. That's when you start playing more passive to react to what they're doing. But if they're giving you space and you know where they're at, that's when you can start playing the objective, and that's where we're going to transition over to actually pushing the point. The ideas for this is simple. It's the exact same thing that we talked about beforehand, getting into this spot, or playing by crates immediately. Sometimes it might be better for you to walk straight through connector if they are down people in concrete. The most notable players that you need to look out for when playing concrete are heavy and soldier. Sometimes it's also sniper, which should be called before you peek. But remember, you don't want to be sitting in this area anyway. You want to be sitting in an angle where you can do something, where you're not taking a lot of damage, and being a proactive part of that team. In fact, I'm not so much talking about this corner anymore because of that. This used to be the place where I would sit and try to get stuff done, but the more I recognize it now, this is a very sloppy way of play. It might seem a bit sophisticated because I have sight over the entire map and I can see people on the point without being peeked by sniper, but people see me, and they now know how to react to me if they know what to do. If I'm playing over here, the main thing that they need to worry about is, hey, let's just shoot them. Because what damage can I do to them, right? I'm shooting at them from across the map. I can't do anything. They send people through connector while I'm shooting somebody, I'm just dead. This spot is really far away from people, and even though it's really nice for you to peek the point like this sometimes because of CSGO angles, it's not the best way of play. The best way of play should just be playing aggressive when your team is playing aggressive and playing passive when your team is playing passive. You don't want to do any sort of hero plays, you don't want to do anything sort of different. Much of this is just fundamental stuff. And some of it will come from certain team environments, certain people will just do things differently. But the main thing is this. If you're playing concrete, you're preventing people from getting into connector. But when your team is ready to push, you should be playing with them. You should not be hiding. You should not be baiting. Exactly. Exactly. The thing about this is that when you're pushing, they still have full reign over concrete. That's why you need to be paying attention to whether or not they're playing by the corner. That's why you need to be paying attention to where that heavy and soldier are, because if you know that soldier and heavy are playing passive, that's a cue for you and your soldier to wait for your team to be ready to walk in, right? Like, let's just say, oh yeah, they're playing passive by cons. My team is ready to push. You want to know what that means? Soldier, whip me. We're going to go over to this spot and ignore concrete completely to fight the point. He bombs behind or onto the combo. I get in, and we're just doing immediate damage. But that can also allow them to walk in. But here's the thing, right? The entire point of the push is that you're pushing when you have an advantage. That should be the best case scenario. At worst, you should be playing an even fight. You should be playing a honest fight, which you should never really take. You want to kind of be in places where they can't hold, or be in places where they shouldn't be able to hold. If they're playing aggressive, you keep a mental note of that, but you're just prepared to either play with your team by playing aggressive into them, or you're playing objective and you're not really paying attention to them all too much. Hell, one of the things that my mentor told me to do, which I'll probably try to do in scrims, is to jump onto crates and kind of take the fight that way. He said for me to do that for a mid-fight, and I'm honestly considering it. But mostly because it's a different way of playing. It's not a standard way, it's a substandard way. Because you're immediately in people's faces, you're taking immediate damage. It's not a good way to play all the time, but it's a really nice way to play if you know that you're not going to beat this guy fundamentally. You're going to try and trick him. You're going to try to get some sort of advantage by playing in a weird, wacky way. And unfortunately on this map, there's not much that you can do to play in a wacky way. Like, sure, maybe there's an idea of you playing on Japan, but this seems like dog shit because you're so far away from your team. There might be an idea of you pushing off China. If your team is going for an Uber ad push, maybe that might work. Especially if the sniper's dead and you're protecting your sniper, maybe that might be a good idea. But assuming that people are needed on concrete, you should just be here the entire time. It should always be... No, I'm not going to hear you out. Because Seagull on this spot is really, really bad. And even then, you don't need the Gru to do it. I have a whip. And I could just do it like this. You could do that with the Gru as well. It takes a bit of practice, but... yeah, I don't suggest standing over here as well. Because look at my screen for a second. This is everything that you get. This is just the entirety of what you get, and it's a glorified version of playing over here. Sure, you hide from people, and it might be a funny idea at first, but people will play around it. If you're spotted, and it doesn't matter how random that play is. If people spot you when you're doing this play, that's when you need to drop down and playing standard, because if you continue playing that spot, you're gonna get shot. And even still, this spot becomes really bad because this only can happen during a hold. If you try doing this during a push, you're just asking to get shot. People will not stop shooting you if you're trying to do this in the transition. Not even when you're up here, just in the transition when you're going up here. That seems like a weird way of play. It might be a good idea for you to hold like this, maybe once, because you're not expecting them, or people aren't expecting you. But even still, let's pretend for a second that they see me, right? I have to wait for them to start doing damage onto my team in order for this play to work. Which should not be the way that you can do it. You can't play super reactive like that. You have to play proactive, preventing them from getting that angle in the first place. So what happens if they're all sitting there? That's when you play the long game. That's when you have to play over here, shoot them a little bit. Maybe you force their attention. Maybe they might play by concrete. Maybe they might play by crates. That's when you that's when you might have to mirror them. Maybe that's when your team comes into this as well, because it's not just you guys, it's everybody. And remember, this is only 20% of the map. The rest of your team is playing on the 80%. Your sniper might be playing on cliff, so he can help you out if people are playing in concrete, for example. Or if he's playing by crates and you can't deal with that immediately. And likewise, maybe they have a sniper on cliff, so you're kind of forced to play this angle until something happens. That's when you might have the good idea for you and your soldier to push through concrete and get something done in connector. But either way, no matter what, the difference of idea is just you can't be in, when you're pushing anyway, you can't be playing in that spot where it's out in the open and you can get easily chip shotted. You can't be standing over here, you can't be standing over here. You need to be in this spot, you need to be playing aggressive, playing objective, and more importantly, being proactive. That's the main takeaway from all of this, because if you're playing this really passive, you are going to lose because you just don't have the space. Once you see that space, please, please, please take it. And yes, certain things might happen where the soldier starts shooting you. Maybe that's a good idea for you to start playing closer to here. Maybe that might be a good idea to honestly go into main and play the head glitch a little bit, and then transition to playing by crates, maybe playing by rock. There's a lot of variety that you can be doing, but most of it comes from the fact that I want you to play in a very dynamic way. I don't want you to sit in one place at one time. I want you to try and see if you need to go into different angles that are better for you. But remember, you leaving concrete like this is asking for them to walk through connector as well. So unless they're all dead, you have to be aware of that. And if you're playing aggressive too soon, you might take damage. They are in a better spot anyway. If you have to force them back, you have to use other people to do that for you. You have to ask for a sniper to shoot. You have to ask for a soldier to spam in that place. You have to ask for people for things that you can't do by yourself. And it should not be played by yourself. You can't expect to get everything by yourself, because they will walk into you with more than one player and you will feel like dog shit even with 450. So
true.
Long and short of this, please, 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 when you are playing concrete, you're not sitting over here, you're being aggressive, you're being proactive, and you're playing objective. Any questions?
Earlier you were talking about crazy or wacky ways to play. What about sitting on their Japan?
Sitting under Japan.
Their Japan.
Sitting on their Japan, it might be good for a hold. In fact, actually, I like it better if you just play over by this spot. Which seems weird, but the idea is, this is something I did back in Season 17, surprisingly. My idea would be to hide here as best as possible, because essentially what it was just a glorified concrete hold where I'd be playing crates. Then maybe I'd jump over here. And the entire idea is just for me to play aggressive like this, so it becomes a transition to the forward hold, which we'll talk about soon. But we should talk about offense before we talk about just holding. But let's talk about just everything that we've had so far, because yeah, there's been a lot, and I just want to recontextualize everything. If you're pushing from cliff, you're opening concrete up to your entire team, so people need to start being there in order for you guys to make this at least somewhat work. It's much better as a hold for you to be playing cliff, but if you're just spawning, you just died before a fight happens, and the fight is still happening, Cliff becomes really good because you can jump down and surprise people. You're up close, you're with your combo, that's why it's so good. But on its own, just pushing, it's way too far away, people can see you, and in this spot, you should not be seen. That's the main entire point of it. So getting up here is already aggressive, it's already asking for danger, and you're playing over here to support your teammates rather than playing aggressive. And the only times when you can do that is playing in a reactive way. The only time where you should be playing from China or playing from a Valley, for example, playing by Porch, walking in. The main idea with that is just you're shadowing an ad Uber, and you want to just protect people. With China, it also just might be you getting an advantage, like their sniper's dead because your sniper shoots him. So then you play over here and sort of peek out a little bit because you could just transition quickly to rock. Maybe that's an idea. Another idea is you playing behind house before a push happens, just playing in these areas before a push so you can get a buff, you can help protect people in certain ways, and once you're done getting those buffs, you're either done protecting people or you're done getting those buffs. You're just able to walk in, get into the angle where you need to be. When you're playing concrete, it's important to play by this door for buffs, playing over here if you want to just be a slightly aggressive, and if you're playing over here, you're waiting for a push to happen, maybe an Uber exchange, maybe a dry fight, but you're mostly just waiting for people to do their stuff while being in a position where you could protect your side of the concrete. If your team wants to be aggressive, maybe it's a dry fight, and your team is playing on behind rock, that's when you and your soldiers start playing it really aggressive. I don't want you playing in the transition spots, which is just the entirety of concrete. I also don't want you playing this corner. You could play this wall, but only because it protects from people on point. Moreover, I just want you to be aggressive. I want you to be proactive, and that's the reason why people play concrete nowadays. It's to play proactive, it's to be aggressive, it's to play with your team. Every other spot that we're talking about is reactive. Except for Dogbread, except for their side concrete. Because if you do happen to get on Cliff, the main idea is for you to peek Dogbread, and this is really, really good for a post fight. But Cliff is not usually the way to do it. It's not suggested to be the way to do it. Maybe for a hold, but for a push, it might be better for you to go from Porch all the way over to Dogbread. It might be better for you to go main to rock and then to Dogbread. It might be better for you to, I don't know. Let's just say you're done dealing with concrete players and you might just, no. If you're done dealing with concrete players, you could just have concrete for free and play concrete, play by, their concrete, I mean, play by crates. I don't know, it just seems like Dogbread is a much different way of playing. And if you want to do that, it kind of revolves around you being slower in that aspect, or your team being slower, or maybe the fight's drawing out, and you could just afford the time to transition over to playing here. But either way, I don't know, if you have concrete control, use it to your advantage and push into them, and be aggressive, but don't be stupid. Because remember, if you're playing aggressive like this, you're asking to be shot from people behind, so maybe you have to like scout it out a little bit, peek over here before you start peeking over here. Just doing what you can, but not too much. There's a certain balance in it all. But the main thing that I want you guys to take away from this is to play aggressive on concrete and play proactive on concrete. A lot of the other spots, except for Dogbread, except for their side concrete, you can play, those are the only spots where you can play proactive. Everywhere else really only is reactive. Unless you have the space and you have the opportunity for you to get from point A to point B. That's where well, damn, alright. So, like I was saying, maybe, for example, you're waiting for a dry fight, right? And the dry fight happens, and you're playing in main. And instead of walking concrete, it might just be better for you to play main, getting into the spot anyway. Or just playing crates and just playing it that way. Of course, most of it depends on what the other team is trying to do. If they're playing passive, these spots become innately better because you're playing more proactive than they are. But that doesn't mean that it's going to work 100% of the time. Maybe if you're playing main, you might be able to play over by rock for a little bit, and then you transition to this spot over here, and then fighting the point, playing objective, or then playing on Dogbread and playing to kill. There's just a lot of different ways that you can push on this map, and most of them revolve around what these spots can do for you, personally. Because a lot of these spots, when it comes to just holding them or when it comes to pushing them, it's different. You play them differently depending on the situation. So, with that all being said, does anybody have any questions that's not playing silly? If you're playing in that spot, you have to pick a sniper sightline if you want to play aggressive. It might just be better for you to play on concrete because you're so close to point and you can transition closely to crates, or maybe it might be even better for you to be a part of that Uber anyway and just play on the point itself. But if you're not part of that Uber, that's the risk with playing Cliff. You're just peeking a sniper sightline. So maybe it might not be the best idea, but it might be a good idea if he's dead. But at that point, anything else is a good idea, so I don't know. Alright, sweet. So, let's talk about defense. And I think we'll start with the best part first, which is just the super aggressive forward hold. When it comes to the forward hold, you only sit in one spot, and it's behind here. You play by this crate, peeking into them whenever you can, peeking over here when you need to, but as soon as people die on your team, like if they can't hold angles, like a soldier can't hold cliff, your demo can't hold main, or especially if you're getting overran and you can't hold you can't hold grass, it needs to be called for you guys to leave. But what the spot can accomplish for you is one simple thing. Just being up in their face, and yeah, they do see your shadow with the gun, but it's already kind of expected that you're up here anyway if the forward hold's happening, so it doesn't really matter. At least it matters much less. Like, if you play in this spot, you'll avoid the shadow being seen, you can avoid people looking at you, and it's a more aggressive way of play. I'm not saying it doesn't work, it's just, the shadows and the gun being seen, it doesn't really matter as much as I'd made it out to be. What matters is that you're just in a position where you can react to what they're doing. If they can react to you, that's when it becomes bad. But if you know that they're walking concrete because the spy calls it, that's how it should be. If you hear them walking into grass, if you hear a soldier or a heavy revving around that corner, you should just be prepared for a fight anyway because you're so close to them. Like Sweech. I'm gonna sit over here, and I want you to just walk into me, right? Just pretend that you're leaving from spawn, going into that spot, and I want you to go at like a random time. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Alright, I'm ready now. Yep. I heard the footsteps, and I was just prepared for it. Even if you weren't revving in that instance, which I would also try to pick up on, if you were already revved, I would just listen for the soldier's footsteps or anybody else's footsteps, including your own. So, you gotta be prepared when playing the spot. And there are easy ways to do it. There are much easier ways to do it if you have people helping you, but that's not to say you can't do it by yourself. The only thing that you need to do is if you're being overrun, please play this head glitch and tell people that they're walking grass. Game volume issue, S&D volume reset, sorry, it's what was it? S&D reset or whatever it's called. No, not SDR, but I'm trying to remember the exact phrase of it. It's reload sound. It's meant to do that. If you have a worse pair of headphones, it's really unfortunate because there's not much I can really suggest other than turning up the game, and sometimes that's what people don't want to do. So, the only thing I really want to suggest in that instance is just be prepared as best as possible and don't overtune your settings. Don't change it up unless it causes a drastic difference in the level of, just hearing level. Like, for example, if you're playing with your volume all the way up and you're now playing with volume all the way down, there's time that you need to adjust in order for you to get into the swing of things, which I understand. But if you're just trying to play a game, use the settings that are most comfortable to you, not the newest ones that might give you a benefit, but also just have a likely chance of not doing anything for you and doing everything against you. But yeah, anyway.
So you gotta hear it through comms.
Pretty much, yeah. That's another thing that you can do. That's a universal thing that you should be doing. Your spy should be calling where they're walking from. And if you know that from your spy that they're walking grass, that's when you can start playing aggressive and start playing into them. But they gotta be prepared for it, and you gotta be prepared for it. And moreover, you're playing with your team now because your spy's calling it. So, yeah. That's the entire idea. Sometimes you might be able to push into their main if they start walking at you, but The idea should just be holding grass, and as soon as people are dying, you leave. From this, we can also talk about other forward hold ideas, and most of this just revolve around the fact that your team is playing up with you. I really like playing this spot, not so much on top of the crates unless I really want to, like if I know that a heavy's trying to push into me. And I play like right at the lip over here, where I'm not seen, and I mostly go in on the same timing that their other heavy has. Because I just know, I think I know the timing on when people are trying to peek. Like during a game, or during a fight. And instead of me doing this, I just kind of, yeah. I don't know. One other thing that I really want to make aware of this, you can play main, and it's really, really good. The entire idea is that this, honestly, if your team is playing aggressive and they have the space and are trying to play to prevent people from walking into certain angles on point, maybe this could be an idea. But of course, people on cliff will start dealing with you. It's not a great place to sit for a prolonged period of time, especially if you are playing up here. But it is an aggressive play, and it's the most common way of doing it. So, what happens when cliff is being dealt with and you want to get something more? You want to deal with people behind house, right? Might be able to walk through their main and try to get something, but that seems like a little bit of an extreme because you're exposing yourself to multiple sightlines at the exact same time. Whereas this, you're kind of doing that exactly, but you also have the option of going over here and isolating a fight, dropping down to chicken out. And you could just surprise people by jumping up here. People aren't expecting you to be jump revving into Japan. But that's not what we should be focusing on. The thing that we need to focus on, and can you guys stop? If people are not playing in the same line as you or playing adjacent to that line, you need to back up. If your demo's playing behind pocket, might just be better for you to start playing passive and concrete. Speaking of which, let's talk about that, because this is going to be the most divisive thing that I've probably said so far. Mostly because I'm still figuring all of this out. I'm trying to figure out ways to not play super passive, but I'm also trying not to sound wrong. Or be wrong in this instance. So let me just try to compile my thoughts into my own mind for a second. Okay. Alright. So, the idea with concrete is that you're either playing aggressive to prevent them from walking in, or you're in a position where you can try to, you know, maybe bait them into doing something. Maybe it might be better for you to play objective. Sorry. Or it might just be better for you to back off and play passive and then play aggressive as soon as they're playing aggressive. Once they're in, the choice becomes easy, and then you can play around that fact. But you don't want them to be able to make that choice. You want them to stay in this spot and do absolutely nothing. So, that's when you play this spot right over here. And sure, it might be annoying, but you can also back up and just get a buff, get an arrow, maybe play this spot a little bit more. But you don't need to peek that spot. You can always play by crates if you wanted to be aggressive, if you want to prevent people from walking in, do damage to them all the way. But if you, soon as you start taking damage, and this is the thing that I'm divisive about, because my theory with this, if you play aggressive a lot, people are just going to see that you're there and they're going to shoot you and you have to back off. So, this is where I'm going to ask you guys something. When it comes to playing aggressive, should this be a thing that you do before or after they start walking in? My theory is that it's better for you to do it after, and I think it always will be better if you do it after, but I'm trying to think. There might be chances for you to play aggressive, but my thing is that there is ways of you shooting them. There are ways for people from concrete from dealing with you as well. And that's not even mentioning, like, if you're playing over here, snipers can still be a threat. Maybe playing this spot might not be bad then, but, yeah, this is just the one thing that I'm kind of a little bit, not confused about, but I have different opinions about. So I'll talk about what I think you should be doing in defense. On defense, and if you're playing concrete, the main idea is that you do not want to be seen. What that also means is that you shouldn't be playing in spots where you're going to be open to an invitation of hurt. Right? Like, let's just say, I don't know, maybe I'm playing over here, for example, if I wanted to play aggressive, because if I do want to hold over here, maybe a sniper's playing over here, this is what I do. I wait for stuff to happen, and as soon as my sniper starts taking shots, he backs off. That's when I start backing off a little bit too. maybe I might be able to play here for a little bit, but where do I transition to? Maybe over here might be a good option, but this also plays a really passive game. This only focuses concrete when people can be walking main, so maybe that's not the right idea. Maybe that might be good if they walk through connector, but nah, that doesn't seem to work. If they walk through main, you have immediate sightline over here, so maybe the point should just be to play around the fact that people will walk into different directions? Is that the way that oh my god, wait, that is. Oh. Interesting thought. Walking in these different angles, leading into the same spot, offers different advantages for different situations. People who are pushing can have the choice between walking through main to get to crates, or walking through concrete to get to crates, or to plane connector. Likewise with main. So, the goal of the opponent should be to trick them into either playing the wrong spot or fighting them and forcing them away from that spot. That's the reason why it should or shouldn't work. It's to mostly play around the fact that people will walk certain ways. And on defense, okay, now I'm understanding it. Okay, cool. You need to actually rotate a little bit. You need to know where the other heavy is going to be at. If he's called main, you have to play towards main and catch him out before he has a chance to peek you. Or if a sniper's playing cliff, for example, maybe it might be better for you to play a different angle altogether because he's playing main. He's not directly fighting you. He's fighting for objective time. He's fighting point. Likewise with concrete. If they are playing over there, trying to force you out, this is your ideal spot. You're dealing with that without having to do anything. So if they are trying to push concrete, you're just sitting over here waiting for stuff to happen. Maybe you might play it a little bit more passive. Maybe that's an idea as well. Like, maybe that's the reason why people would be able to play back here, but as soon as you start seeing that people are not walking there, that's when you can start playing a bit more. That is... Sorry, I'm like psyching myself out right now. I'm teaching I'm teaching myself new things. Okay. Do you see what I mean? This is why I think heavy is fucking cool. Because a subtle, different path to try and get stuff done is going to change the way you play the game forever. Because now I'm thinking, people are walking at me through concrete. Now I isolate my attention to concrete and spy check a little bit. As soon as a fight happens and they're not in, I can play objective, I can be in. But if they are playing in and I'm not playing objective, I need to play objective as soon as possible or get into a position where I can stop them from playing objective. When you're playing defense, it's really easy. Are they playing main? Play deeper into concrete. Are they playing concrete? You can isolate your attention onto concrete. But if they are trying to peek in a different angle, you might be able to peek out into them with the risk of getting shot at. You might be shot at if you just peek crates all the time, but if you're just playing their... Oh my... I'm starting to get it now. This is what I mean. You cannot be static on this map. If you play the same exact way every single time, you will lose. This is where people with different levels of experience and game knowledge will just triumph over you if you don't have that. They will look at you, they'll be like, huh, that guy's playing really aggressive on concrete. And maybe it's because you just want to gauge what they're doing and you want to play objective anyway. So the idea is this. Maybe they play aggressive into you. Maybe playing this spot is just a way for you to kind of see what they do to you as well. If they ignore you and walk through main, you might just be able to shoot them behind crates and start dealing with them with your team. Of course, with your sniper also helping. But if they know that a sniper's playing there, it's going to be really bad for them, so they might try pushing through cons. They might try doing a whole bunch of stuff from cliff. That's when it starts becoming better for them. So, okay. Let's recontextualize pushes for a second. Let's pretend that they're playing over here by concrete. You might be incentivized to play over here, play the head glitch, and force them out of this spot. As soon as that happens, that's when you can start taking space. And that's when the decision on defense became easier, or it became harder depending on the situation. But overall, the person staying in the spot for the longest will be more likely to take more damage. So, if you're playing in spots where you're not taking damage as much as other people, that's the way that it should be played. So maybe, for example, if you know they're trying to peek concrete, it might be better for you to play over here for a little bit. And if they're walking in, it's a dry fight, you're incentivized to stay over here and maybe even play aggressive so you can get an arrow and then continue fighting them like this. Maybe it also might be a better idea for you to play aggressive when they're just playing aggressive as well, because you prevent them from walking in. But if they're really aggressive, that's when they can go ahead and start to take these even fights, or as even as it can get. That's when it might be better for you to walk straight through connector and start dealing with them if they end up playing concrete. If they're playing aggressive and they're playing objective, that's when they can have the same idea to you if you're not paying attention, but you're just expecting this and they walk through main. It's not really that big of a deal because you can either push here, which I don't really suggest, or you walk and play crates the entire time, which I do suggest. Or they walk through connector to try to deal with you. You're fighting on point, you might just die if you're not paying attention, so that's when your soldier is really helpful in this case. And you see what I mean by not playing alone? Like, if your soldier's with you, this gets, like, dealt with. Your heavy, you might die, but the soldier will clean up, and that's a kill on his part. And now, as opposed to, you know, like, you're being down, but the soldier being up, it's just a matter of, hey, my soldier can get behind after he gets that arrow. What can the heavy do? He can play objective, he could be a part of that team fight, but my soldier's going to have much better short-term value than the heavy's long-term value, and that's where you should be playing it. You see what I mean? Okay. Okay, this is interesting. I really like theorizing about this map. There's always something new to learn about this map, and there's a different way of looking at it. So, that's interesting for me. Let's take a break from talking about concrete. Let's talk about holding other places, like, let's do rock, for example. Rock is only really good if you know that people are going to walk into you. Maybe your demo's dead and this might be a better spot for you to play, but I have seen this happen less and less in higher divs because it's just it's a generally worse way to play. And it does work against worse teams. If their sniper's dead and their demo's dead, it might just be the best idea for you to play rock and play objective adjacent to the objective. But if they have a demo, if they have a sniper, you're kind of taking up space for your sniper to play because their sniper's incentivized to play on rock when he's aggressive and holding. You're not. You might be better playing an off angle or just supporting him, but not in that direct spot. Demos will also benefit from you not being on rock because they don't want to take splash damage and they're the most important person not to take splash damage, including medic, including pyro. So yeah, I think that rock is really good in a vacuum, but it should only be done when certain people are dead, and you're kind of doing it as a proactive reaction. You see that they're dead, so instead of pushing, you're getting people up and running. Maybe this is where playing rock becomes a good thing. And then maybe that's when you transition from playing rock all the way over to point if they're all dead, or maybe you play over to crates if they're not all dead, but you still have a fight to push. Same thing with dog bread, except there's only one option there. You also might be able to play this left angle just to peek out and prod, poke and prod, and then play objective immediately afterwards. But just keep in mind, you're also taking up real estate from other people who will be walking in these angles. You should be worried about playing the offside angles where people won't be standing and you guys aren't eating the same damage. Okay. You know, while we're on the topic of holding, let's talk about just concrete and how you should play around the fact that sometimes you will be hit a lot. If you play aggressive, there's a chance that you might die. But if you play passive, if you're living for a long period of time, they might just send it into you, team, instead of you, but you also just might take a whole bunch of damage as well. If you end up taking a whole lot of damage, not much you can do other than eat in the corner and try to play the same spots when it comes to pushing. But these are also really passive, reactive spots. They're not really meant to help you, they're just meant to regain what has already been lost. And to be honest, you might not get everything back. So, okay. That's when you start transitioning over to main if you'd want to. Maybe play by the dispenser, get some health, and start walking through main. Maybe doing the same ideas that we said beforehand for the mid-fight, where you're just walking into these angles without revving. That way you're just in the fight. Maybe it might be better for you to stay revved if people are immediately over here, and you're able to quickly get to the spot as soon as possible, and being fully revved is better than jump revving into them, not doing enough damage, so okay. So, yeah, most of concrete just revolves around the back and forth that you have with their combo, or not their combo, their flank and everybody else. if you're swinging back and forth, playing aggressive and playing passive when you need to, that should be the best way of playing it. But if they start doing this one idea, maybe it might be better for you to copy it so you don't lose out on any value from you not being there. If they start playing crates, you gotta play crates immediately after. Or if they're playing crates, it might be better for you to play a different angle. But honestly, no, playing crates when they're on crates is the idea because you just want to be active with them. You could deal some damage playing over here. Like shooting through this crack right here. It's a crack shot. If you want to... Yeah, so stand in the corner where heavies would usually stand. Not playing aggressive like that, but that is a counter that I haven't really considered. If they're playing all the way back, I can shoot through the crack, or because I know that they're there because of the bullet tracers, that's when I could start peeking around like that and being aggressive, but that's more of a counter towards the heavy than anything else. But it's also proactive because I'm playing objective, but I'm also in a position... I don't know, it's just... You see what I mean about this spot? It's a really nice kind of like, what the angle. Like, you just get hit by it and you're not expecting it. That can win fights sometimes. But, yeah, I'm just thinking about this more and more. It's just, I don't know. There also might be an idea with you playing over here, for example, if you're holding. But I don't really like this, especially if they start pushing through concrete. Because they can see the shadow, they can see the minigun barrel. In fact, the best thing that I'd really suggest is for you to not look at the point exactly. Or better yet, just you holding your sandwich and playing like this, maybe. But of course, maybe people will see your shadows anyway, so I don't know. Okay, alright, sweet. Good to know that this spot is worse than that spot when it comes to shadows and lighting, but... I'm just trying to think. If you don't want to be seen playing that spot, it's pretty bad. Sorry, I've just been told to maybe try it out by a mentor. Not that it works and that you should be doing it all the time. It's just, I'm just thinking about this map a little bit more than other people. Try to theorize what to do against better teams. But, yeah, let's... Possibly. I'd see this being a really good spot against people walking through main. Because you already aren't being seen. You're in a much better angle for you to take 1, this fight, or 2, this fight. So maybe that's the idea, but then again, it's just a glorified version of Seagull, which is just a glorified version of playing on the wall right here, so I don't really like that. That's what I'm thinking too, but it just seems like a worse transitional step. But it's also as aggressive as you can be, so maybe there's more value to be seen in this spot. I don't know. I think that if people are playing concrete and they're walking into you, this spot is the absolute worst spot to be in. But if they're playing towards main, going up towards you from concrete, maybe it might be better. Maybe it just might be better for aggression as well if you play around the fact. Maybe, but I don't know. They could just hit you with splash and they can hit you with bullets. It's not an impervious spot. You're still susceptible to everything else. So, I don't know. That's just theory, and we've spent a little bit of time talking about that. We spent a little bit of time talking about rock, about concrete, about everything else except for cliff. Let's talk about the hold for this. Like I said before, when it comes to the hold, you just want to play around the fact that you're playing with your sniper, but you're also playing to protect people and you don't want to be seen. Maybe the idea is to play over here in order for you to do both of those things at the exact same time. And either way, you're playing so passive that even if a spy calls you, you might just be able to rotate and play a different spot. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. The only thing that's really stopping you is just why? You know, like, why would you be doing that? And even still, if you wanted to do that with Brew, it would be better. But doing Fist of Steel strats on point to guarantee a point is better in that regard. So, I don't know. But yeah, I've already talked about the cliff hold. I've already talked about the concrete hold. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about on this map?
It's not possible.
Anything else, Swede, or?
Very well.
Is it good for heavy to forward hold cliff? As in, you're playing on their cliff, right? Where is this head glitch? Can you show it? Like, hold on. What? So what door? Like, I'm so confused. Oh, okay, I see. No, soldiers play that much better than an heavy can. Heavies might be able to get stuff done over here, but with heavy, you just want to get people closer to you. Soldier has a much better time because he locks this down better than you can. And the only thing that you can do is let people pass through and hope that they walk into the angle where you want to be seen at, or you don't want to be seen at. So like, for example, if they're playing Cliff, maybe they walk through Cliff as well. That's when it becomes really good, but then again, that's their choice, not yours. You gotta be playing proactive and preventing them from getting that space to begin with, so... yeah. You exclusively forward hold grass because you're the best at doing it. You're already playing close. You're already playing far up with your team. You're right by your medic, so you can get a 450 buff. Your soldier and engineer benefit more from packs than you do. But even still, you can also benefit from packs because you also have the one in connector. You can get the ones on grass. But, I don't know, I feel like you just playing on Cliff just seems like a bit of a waste. You'd be much better playing over here. That is true. That is kind of true, yeah. But, I don't know. Heavy does benefit from playing high ground. It especially helps him when he's trying to get people off the point from playing Cliff. Like, if you guys want to go back onto the point, I'm immediately shooting people, and this high ground does help, but you also got to remember that they kind of built it around that fact. It's not high ground up here, for example. This is the best heavy high ground if you can get it, ironically. But Cliff, it only really is good if people are kind of stopping you from playing aggressive. It's built around the fact that it's far away from the point, that you have this wall that you can't look through, that people are able to see your minigun bullets and assume, yeah, that heavy's over there, we should start playing around that fact, we should start dealing with him. So, I don't know. Maybe it just might be better for you to... it's so weird. I don't know. But yeah, if there's no other questions, that's the review. I know this was a whole lot more theoretical than anything else, and I'm sorry to disappoint anybody watching who wanted more fundamental talk, but I hope I was able to do that more constructive, or at least as constructively as the last video that I did on product, which if you want to check out, it's also on my YouTube channel. But yeah, for now, I thank you guys for coming in, and yeah, thank you guys for watching, so I'll catch you guys later. See ya.